Hello, citizens. What you are about to see is a crime, or rather, a multitude of crimes. They are committed against ordinary citizens, taxpayers, innocent bystanders, children, women, and men in our country. In fact, they are the worst crimes imaginable. They meet the legal definition and can only be described as capital crimes! Now I want to introduce you to our new department that we call the Tale of Two Worlds, hosted by the one and only Marquesa Elizabeth Heinley, who has taken time out of her world travel and busy social schedule to deliver a report about how the upper 1% of society lives and is fundamentally different from you and I. The Marquess has spent 20 years of her life living in Saudi Arabia, rubbing elbows with sheiks and European royalty, but today travels the world to visit her many homes and upper crust acquaintances. Joining us now from some remote island location is the one and only Marquesa Elizabeth. Marquesa, are you there?
Oh, Robert, thank you. It is a delight to be part of your program. Ever since I met you at that cocktail party in London, you made me promise that I would help in any way I can. You know, I'm so shy, but since you insist, I suppose I can share some of my thoughts, and it is an ideal time to talk. My boat's captain has explained that there is a mechanical issue with our engine, and I will have to wait an hour or so while it is serviced. Oh, you just can't rely on service and staff these days. So here I am to explain my life and the lives of those people that I know best, which are so entirely different from the average, ordinary, common people. And with the help of this little computer here that you have so thoughtfully arranged, I am now going to answer some questions sent in to me by the little people. And here they come. George, somewhere in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who asked, "Oh, Marquesa, can you tell us how big is your community of the upper 1% that you socialize with?" Oh, George, so sweet of you to ask. I, of course, think of those thousands that I have met at various dinner parties, festivals, and a host of other affairs organized by social secretaries. But to be more exact, according to a recent report from a group calling themselves New World Wealth, they send me their reports every month. There are approximately 30,000 of us across the world. These are the circle of those people that I spend time visiting and enjoying each other's company. Oh, now Mary Beth from Palo Alto, California wants to know, what is it that defines the 1%? She says that she and her husband are both high-tech workers, and between them they have saved $5 million and wants to know, would they be considered rich? Oh, how quaint, Mary Beth. My dear Mary Beth, I regret to say, no, you cannot be considered wealthy by our standards unless you have at least $100 million. How cute is that? Stephen in Memphis, Tennessee wants to know, where do most of the wealthy live? Stephen, my dear, the real answer to your question is all over the world, because most of us have multiple homes in exotic locations all over the globe. In fact, many of us don't feel like we belong to any one country, but rather like to think of ourselves as world citizens, especially when it comes to the tax man. Oh, Robert, this has been such fun communicating with the little people this way. I look forward to the next time you call me so I can tell you more about a very hush-hush issue among my set. Taxes and why we don't pay them, huh? The truth is that we don't invest like the little people, we don't bank like the little people, and we certainly don't fill out our tax returns like little people. That is the secret of why our good life never ends. But more on that next time. Until then, this is Marquesa Elizabeth Heinley waving goodbye from one of my locations. Ta-ta, ta-ta.
Often we read in headlines about the wonders of scientific exploration and discovery, which our newspapers, broadcast, and internet media are all too happy and giddy to report and too uneducated to question. At Capital Crimes, we know and understand that behind the carefully crafted press releases coming from NASA, the NIH, and other government agencies, and corporate research departments and laboratories, much of the truth behind these revelations remain hidden from the public. Thank heavens, as part of the Capital Crimes research team, we're blessed to have the unparalleled sage of science and distinguished Professor Jans Haskemeier with us to reveal the more complete and ugly truths behind these scientific endeavors. Professor, are you there?
Sorry, I left you on the Zoom, but I had to attend to a few Bunsen burners, warming up some molecular soups of mine. Yes, now I remember. You were asking me about some of the research going on and whether there were any risks associated with it. The answer is yes, absolutely yes. The risks are huge. But most of these fools don't realize it or just don't give a darn dissertation about it because much is at stake for them. Despite the risks for the rest of us, they have research grants to compete for, scientific publications waiting to release their findings, and of course, they are competing for their reputations and within academia and even the media. Yet, they are all consistent in two respects. They encourage daydreams about their potential future benefits, and they minimize the risk. How do you think we ended up with that virus from Wuhan? Everyone knew that laboratory was run like a student dormitory, but the dingbats at the National Institute of Health told us there was little to no risk. The NIH kept insisting that we could minimize gain-of-function research if we just pushed it way overseas and let the Chinese fiddle with it. Well, they fiddled with it all right, and guess what happened? It escaped and spread worldwide and bit us in the proverbial gluteus maximus until everyone was playing violins of sorrow. And who do you think paid for that concert? Well, in addition to the NIH, there were research grants from our reliable friends at the U.S. Department of Defense and even the Department of Agriculture. Because, of course, as everyone knows, we love to eat bats with our borscht and soup for lunch. And what about private company research in the field of gene splicing and biogenetics, you ask? Well, some of these Frankensteins are working to design and synthesize entirely new genomes, a complete set of genetic material to create organisms with desired traits. By altering this genetic code, they can engineer new novel life forms. Just last month, one scientific team reports they have created 3 prehistoric wolf pups. The result is the dire wolf. Sounds fascinating to the casual, uninformed, scientifically illiterate layperson. What these companies don't want to tell you is that behind every partial success, they are willing to reveal these experimental guinea pigs are preceded by a long line of abortive spermatozoa, perverted creatures, unsightly monsters which hopefully are immediately euthanized if the companies don't see fit to perform other ungodly experiments on them first. These are the sights of little Johnny, Janie, and the parents would prefer not to see. The horror!
Of course, no news program would be complete without a look ahead to the atmospheric monstrosities heading our way. To adequately prepare our viewers, Capital Crime brings you our crisis weather report with our weather wizard, Aisha.
Thanks, Robert. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Capital Crimes Crisis Weather Report. I'm Aisha, your meteorologist, an atmospheric agent guiding you through another frightening, horrifying week of weather. Today was mild with low humidity and temperatures rising to the 70s, but beware. Those kind of conditions can eventually lead to drought and dry your skin out like a lizard. As you can see on our crisis weather map, pre-drought conditions are spreading over the entire east coast of our nation, just like the Great Dust Bowl of the 1930s. You might first notice great thirst among humans and animals alike. If you must leave your home, please be careful. We always carry plenty of water and lotions, and we strongly recommend that you wear our crisis weather hydro belt. Whether heading to the store or to grandma's, don't be caught out in the open plains without sufficient H2O and suntan lotions and oils. By going to Capital Crimes Crisis Weather website, you can order your own hydro belt for only $79.99 and get $10 off if you mention, "I want H2O with Aisha." Things look somewhat benign tomorrow. What a disappointment. But there is a small disturbance on the West Coast that could eventually creep its way across the country and then launching a sneak attack on us in the middle of the night. I would guess around next Tuesday.
Here at Capital Crimes, we investigate and report on many crimes motivated by those seeking power or financial gain. So, with pleasure now, let me introduce Sahara Frieda Lotusberger, our Capital Crimes fashion marshal and host for our new department.
Hello, Robert. Our humble aim in this department is to identify really ridiculous fashion and help you to avoid looking like a clothing clown. Sometimes the worst fashion offenders are those we look up to as leaders, yea, leading our governments. But to really understand how fashion and politics might mix, we must scan the capital of our federal government. Let's glimpse at what our representatives are wearing. Boring black and gray are the colors of choice for 99% of our congressmen, and colorless blouses and lackluster jackets, the suit of choice for most congresswomen. However, every now and then, a creative type gets elected and brings a sense of their own design to our legislative body. Unfortunately, it is often one that is more befitting a protester outside of Congress rather than one within. Of course, this report would be remiss if we didn't account for the fashion of the White House and his cabinet members. But aside from red hats with the slogans, President Donald Trump exhibits traditional garb and lots of blue. Is left for his cabinet members and especially our super government agency DOJ, and it is cast of offenders to really set the tone. living up to their image as serial computer hackers. Many don wardrobes to match their preoccupations and subversive natures. All hail the new fashion of conquest, the winner takes all model, and might makes right design. Our new fashion trendsetters have arrived, and they are the barbarians at the gates. That's all for now. This is Sahara Frida Lottersberger, your fashion marshal, and I will see you next time when we discuss another crime of fashion: why young people won't get dressed.
Anyone who's been paying attention to sports around the world recognizes that it is rapidly growing in variety, international reach, and most importantly, in its capture of big money. Let's tune in to learn more about one aspect of this phenomenon, which is luring more and more time from the average fan and more money from their pockets.
Yes, Robert, I can hear you. Hi, everyone. This is Tatiana Velasquez, your Capital Crimes sportscaster for our new department, Cash Colosseums, covering the world of sport and big money. Excuse me, everyone. I gotta take this call. Yes, I will take that spread, okay? 4 points over Dallas. Yes, put me in for 400. Forgive me now, where was I? Oh, yes. Boy, do we have money rolling in. 80 billion in professional baseball, 90 billion in professional football, and television contracts for every imaginable sports worth hundreds of millions of dollars each year. The National Basketball Association teams earn $230 million per year just in TV deals, while NFL teams earn $380 million. The average NFL team is worth $5.7 billion, and every team is profitable, no matter how terrible their record is. But that is nothing compared to our big new pot of gold, sports gambling.
Right now, I want to introduce you to another department that we call the District of Corruption, hosted by our correspondent, Santana Diva Gale, who lives near Capitol Hill in the District of Columbia and keeps her eyes open and her ears on the ground to detect any disturbing vibrations stirring beneath the surface of Washington, D.C.'s official platforms. Santana, thanks for connecting with us for your report. I understand that this week you're going to give us a rundown on another district tragedy, the rise and fall of Council Member Trayon White.
Well, Robert, you're right to say that Trayon White was a popular representative of his ward and thought to be a fervent defender of citizens from the ravages of crime. Way back in 2011, an editorial in the Washington Post praised White's nonprofit for doing interesting work with inner city youth. Robert, whatever that means. And that White had real insight into the problems confronted by students in Ward A schools. That's the Post gushing, not us. Yet, we can find no record of the organization nor of its accomplishments since the article was published. Trayon's charm and magical powers to get things done continued to grow. Then things fell off track. Shockingly, in August of 2024, he was suddenly arrested by the FBI and currently faces bribery charges after investigators alleged he accepted kickbacks for influence over city contracts regarding, Robert, I quote, violence interruption services, unquote. The alleged transaction was caught all on video, and according to court filings, White is accused of allegedly accepting $156,000 in bribes to pressure district employees to give $5.2 million worth of contracts to the companies that had given him the payments. Allegedly, the companies wanted White to use his position as chairman of youth affairs to pressure employees at the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, ONSE, to provide contracts for violence intervention services in wards 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now get this, Robert. Coincidentally, one of the recipients of the contracts, Cure the Streets, the lead supervisor, has since been charged with the crime and is currently in jail with no bond in connection to the September 2023 quadruple shooting. You can't make this stuff up. And in February 2025, the DC Council voted unanimously to expel White, and since White has not yet been convicted, he remains eligible to seek re-election to the seat. That idea is not so new in the District of Corruption because that same Ward 8 re-elected Marion Barry following his conviction for cocaine use in the hotel room back in 1990. Incidentally, Barry's famous refrain following his arrest was to blame the woman who offered him the cocaine as a part of an FBI sting operation, and he yelled, "The bitch set me up," as he was being led away in handcuffs. That sounds a bit like Adam blaming Eve for handing him the apple, if you ask me. But the mayor served his sentence, and he was properly reelected by the forgiving constituents based in the ward. And who knows, the same fate might await Trayon White. What great examples of resolving doors are we teaching our youth? What does this tell us about the nature of nonprofit and consultancy contracts? It shows that there is a lack of transparency, mitigation, and wasteful spending in the DC government. The district is home to an estimated 13,500 registered nonprofits. DC's Attorney General oversees all these programs, and it's disturbing that the issues surrounding White weren't caught early on. Perhaps DC should create their own Doge program to track wasteful spending and accountability of the nonprofits receiving funding. And that's it for this installment of the District of Corruption. This is Santana Diva Gale signing off for Capital Crimes.
I now want to introduce our new department, Tech Devolution, which will ask whether technology is in fact leading us to more advancements, progress, and productivity, or if in reality it is just a conceit of an advertising campaign wielded by the tech giants designed to convince us to purchase the next big thing with little or even negative consequences for society. We will simply ask if the cost-benefit ratio, or ROI, return on investment, are really positive for consumers and businesses and governments who are being asked to invest in and accommodate these new technologies. In many cases, we have our doubts about the benefits versus the negative returns. Let's turn to the host of this new department, our new technology specialist, Rob Paul, for his take on today's technological progress on one aspect of life here in America.
Robert, let's start with transportation. In your era, you had supersonic aircraft, which could carry passengers from London to New York City, Washington Dulles in under 2 hours. The Concorde could easily cruise at twice the speed of sound when it started service in 1976. Many Americans don't even remember or have the knowledge that we had such high-speed travel back then. The ride was pleasant, the cabin was filled with well-dressed people, and the service was impeccable, with great dinner parties, entries, and champagne. As for the preparation for air travel, you've told me that in those days, one could take a taxi to the airport and be on a plane in less than 5 minutes. Compare that to today's airport flying experience. After being admonished to check in at the ticket gate at least 2 hours early, you suffer through a long security maze more suitable for goats than people. You drag your bags along to the end goal, a humiliating final x-ray of your carry-on bags and requirement that you dismember your wallet, phones, keys, belts, shoes, and anything else that might trigger the security door you must walk through. Finally, you do the same, only to plop into your own uncomfortable seat, surrounded by a slew of passengers whose dress codes, personal habits, loud voices, and offensive sounds often seem more suitable for their bathrooms than a polite society in an aircraft cabin. There you are stuck in today's air cattle craft, which will take you 3 times as long as the Concorde to get you to a similar destination, not counting the additional hours at the airport. So when it comes to the technology in the skies, my generation doesn't have the memory of another alternative. But in fact, we are definitely flying slower and lower than people were 20 years ago.
Well, that's it for this installment of Capital Crimes. In future episodes, we will be examining the new federal budget bill fiasco coming out of Congress, the impact of tariffs, AI, and our investigation of the biggest crime in terms of financial loss in world history, yet completely missed by our media. This colossal crime never resulted in indictments nor criminal charges. In fact, there is little evidence that it was ever thoroughly investigated. But that is all about to change because it will be soon the target of capital crimes. See you next time.